The last step to completing this project is to learn how to create cut-out snowflakes. So you can decide how many snowflakes you want to place on your composition, but what's minimum requirement would be one white snowflake and one snowflake cut out of a magazine. You can do more than that, but one white and one magazine is the least number of snowflakes that you can use to cut out and collage onto your painted background. So we need to learn how to create the cut-out snowflake. So first thing that you're going to do is you're going to take your square white paper and you're going to turn it like a diamond. All right, now what you're going to do is you're going to take the right side or the left side and you're going to fold that all the way across, and you want to line up those corners as precise as you can get it. What I like to do is hold with one hand so it doesn't slide. Then I'm just going to flatten with my other hand, and now I'm sliding my hand up and down the crease so that I get a triangle like this. Once you leave your paper in this position, okay, now what you're going to do is you're going to take the bottom piece of this triangle and you're going to fold it all the way up to the top, line it up to the top corner. Again, I like to hold it with one hand, and then I'm going to slide my hand or my fingers across the edge. And now what we have is a 90-degree angle, or a right-sided angle. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the bottom corner of my flat horizontal side and I'm going to fold it up to the top corner. So this is now our third fold. Okay, the key to making your snowflake circular when you cut it out is this folding process. So it's important to make sure you do your last fold in the correct position. So I want to look for the center of my paper. So the way I figure that out is I'm going to open it up one fold, and I'm going to look at where this inside fold is connecting. This is the center of my paper. And what I mean is, if I open up my paper again, now I can see that these three folds are all connected to this center point. So that's what I'm referring to as the center. So I want to position my paper so that the center is closest to my body. And now I've got a long side and I have a short side. I'm going to take the corner of my short side and I'm going to fold this over the top of the long side, but I want it to line up with the opposite edge. So I'm going to try to force that fold to stay in the center, and then I'm going to line it up so it's in the same row or even with this side, and I'm going to fold that down. That's our last fold. So if I look at it closely, I'm going to see that there's a flat side right here. Okay, that's important to locate because now we're going to be working with scissors to finish the rest. So when we use scissors, you always want to hold the scissors in the correct position. You have a circle and then you have a jelly bean shape. The circle should always point up or on the top, and your fingers, your thumb is going through the circle, and then your bottom fingers go through the jelly bean shape. This is the correct hand position to use a pair of scissors. You are going to be most successful when you cut all the way down here at the connecting portion of the blade. So call this kind of the back side or the bottom edge of the scissors. Too many times I see students trying to cut with the top of the blade. So if you're just trying to cut with the very top, you're not going to be very successful. The better way to use the scissors is to open them up, slide your paper all the way to the bottom edge, and then cut, and that's going to be so much easier. So what you're looking for is this flat edge. I'm going to use a Sharpie just so you can see in the video what I'm talking about. Okay, so this flat side, I'm going to cut that whole thing off. I'm going to open my scissors. Be careful not to cut your fingers on the back side. And I'm going to cut across the top edge. So now I have this triangle that I'm working with. Keep all your cutouts in a pile on your desk because that will be so much easier when we clean up at the end of the period if it's one pile that we can just wipe off into the trash can that will be brought around to your table. Okay, if I were to open this up right now, this is just going to be a flat edge kind of circular shape. You can leave your snowflake like that, but I think that we can do something more interesting than just these flat edges. So I like to start by designing my top edge of my snowflake. So I'm going to hold this in the position that was just folded, where the center is pointing closest to me. And I'm going to zoom in a little closer so you can see what I'm designing. All right, I want you to do this with a pencil because Sharpie is going to bleed through the paper and you're going to end up seeing this Sharpie. So do this with a pencil. I'm using a Sharpie just so you can see the details on this video. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start in the top corner on the flat side, and I'm going to draw some sort of line that's going to go down towards the center of the triangle. Remember that I have to be able to cut this line out, so don't draw something so small and jaggedy like this that you're never going to be able to cut that line. So now I'm going to come back up towards the other corner. And you can experiment with what this line looks like. I've got lots and lots of white paper for you to try lots of versions of snowflakes. Okay, now the space is left over. Now I'm going to be drawing different shapes that I'm going to cut away from the side edges. So I'm going to start by drawing my shape from the side edge. And I want my shapes to have spaces in between them. I like to say about a finger distance space. You do not want your shapes to go all the way across to the opposite side, because what's going to happen is when you cut it out, your snowflake is going to fall apart. Okay, I have no idea what this is going to look like as a snowflake. That's the fun part, is opening up to seeing what you created. So now I'm ready to cut. I'm going to leave this whole thing folded. I'm going to open up my scissors to start cutting on my line that I drew. When I cut, the hand that's holding the scissors is only opening and closing. The hand not holding the scissors is steering and turning the paper as I cut. So now I'm going to take my left hand and steer the paper the other direction. You're going to be more successful when you cut this way. So I'm turning the paper, I'm turning the paper. Now, I'm stuck. This is kind of hard to finish. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut from the other direction on the same line. And I'm turning my page. Now I get to where I ended previously, and then this whole piece should separate. It is not a big deal if you end up cutting off of the line, because we're gluing this down onto your background page anyways. So if you don't cut exactly on the line, we're going to turn these snowflakes over backwards. You're not going to see the pencil line anyways. Okay, so once I finish cutting my shapes out, I'm going to go from the other direction. Okay, now's the fun part. This is what mine looks like when all the pieces are cut out. And now when I open up my snowflake, I'm going to see what I got. Okay. So this is what my finished snowflake looks like. What you want to think about is how much painting do you want to see through your snowflake? Because the bigger the holes are that you cut away, the more the background painting is going to show through. The smaller your holes are, the more solid the paper is going to be, and the less of the painting is going to show through. And that's just your personal preference. So I want you to practice making 3 or 4 white paper snowflakes to learn from your experience on what you like and what you don't like. Follow the diagram from the directions that's in your sketchbook to help you fold your next snowflakes. But you should also try different sizes. So, if you want to make a smaller snowflake, instead of cutting right across this flat edge, you're going to cut a little bit lower. So if I want a little snowflake, maybe I cut all of that off, and now I'm starting with this small little piece, and the process is still going to be the same, where I'm going to cut from corner to corner, and then I'm going to remove some shapes from the sides. I'm going to get my scissors, and I'm just going to cut on these lines and see what happens when I open this up. Alright, here's what my small piece looked like when I cut it. And when I open this one up, here's what it looks like as a finished snowflake. So you can see the difference in sizes.